what the Federal Reserve looks at. And there was a recent report yesterday that the CPI numbers were coming out looking a little bit better, giving positive feedback on the fact that inflation may possibly be getting better just by looking at the CPI numbers. So, CPI, what is that? It's Consumer Price Index. What it is there's a bureau called the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they look at a bunch of different categories where people spend their money. The three most important areas they look at all the areas that people spend their money, but the three most important areas that they look at are food, housing, and transportation. In the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they make decisions about adjusting tax brackets, Social Security, and food stamps based on their findings of where people are spending their money. So it is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They are made up of 450 people, and their job is to look at you and watch you and see where you're spending your money and how that changes from month to month. So, did you know that there are people actually looking at where you're spending your money? I find that to be interesting. So, basically, they keep track of where people spend their money and they look at it and they compare it from month to month to see the changes in where people are spending their money and how much money they're spending. And they come up with what is called the CPI number, and that is how they calculate whether the inflation is too high or whether it is normal where they want it to be. So they are consistently looking at the spending behavior of people. And again, this department is made up of 450 people. They monitor 100,000 different goods and services and 8,000 housing units. So that is their job, to look at you and watch you and see uh, what you're buying and how much you're buying. I find that to be interesting. From month to month, they're logging it from month to month. So the CPI, or the CPI number, Consumer Price Index, is watched very carefully by the Federal Reserve. And this is a number that they use to determine the inflation. So this excludes things like, as far as looking at where you're spending your money, this excludes things like Medicare, Medicaid, employer sponsored health plans, and nonprofits. So, what keeps inflation going is that when inflation is high, people they they desire more money, so they're asking for raises. So in the event that they do get these raises, what businesses do is they end up charging more for their products and services. And so that's what keeps this cycle of inflation going. Um, so they come out this with these CPI numbers. They come out with these reports. They are consistently monitoring what you're spending your money on, how much, how is the price changing from month to month, and that way they can get a gauge on inflation, whether they are keeping inflation in check or not. And so inflation, it greatly correlates with the stock market. As you know, when inflation is up, people tend to sell off and it causes the stocks to go down. So that's the correlation between the inflation and then it causes the stocks to go down because people are selling off. So, in the event that inflation improves, they just said a couple of days ago that the CPI numbers are a little bit better. If in the event that inflation improves, when inflation goes back down to normal, then people will begin to enter back into the stock market, which causes the stocks to go back up. So there's this correlation between low inflation, high value of stocks. So that is what is going on. They're monitoring you, where you're spending your money, how much you're spending from month to month, to look at inflation, to come up with these CPI numbers, and the inflation itself, it affects the stock market. High inflation, low stock market. Low inflation, high stock market. So, like I said before, the Federal Reserves, they are constantly watching this CPI number. And the goal is to get inflation in check and to keep inflation in check. So, the latest report is that the CPI numbers are starting to look better. So, we will see where we go from here as far as inflation goes. So this is the Love and Money Show. If you like the show, please hit the like button. It helps the channel. If you're not a subscriber, please hit subscribe and the notification bell next to it. Subscribe for business ideas. I bring people onto the show and they share different business ideas with you. So hit subscribe to tune in to the channel for business ideas. Thank you for watching and have a great rest of your nights.